Wow, where's the year gone?
I know.
But here we are, and it's going to launch on Tello Films, and I'm hoping that you'll have a chance to check it out. Um, and what was I going to say? Yeah, come and join us.
And I wanted to ask about with the state of Asian American representation now, with Squid Game, Eternals, Cowboy Bebop, and Shang-Chi. How do you feel we are moving towards in terms of, is it going mainstream? Are we staying indie?
It's without a doubt mainstream. I'm excited to see it because I left the U.S. in like 2014, and I was working exclusively in the Chinese market for like about 5 years, to be honest with you. So I've just come back, and I've done a couple of productions here, with Christmas on the Ranch being the one, of course. I've done a few films since I've been back, but it's been challenging, obviously, with COVID. I was starting a project in New York on HBO called The Flight Attendant, in the middle of it. That got shut down too. So it's been a challenging environment. But the larger question about Asian representation in the entertainment media, is it here to say, I believe as long as the market economics of it provide for it, it certainly will be. Because if you look at, like, when I started my career, I don't know what mainland China's box office was in the world, but it was probably like 50 or something. So basically, I don't mean to sound disparaging saying this, but I'm just saying this with truth. You have to consider where these things come from. An Asian American male market value was worthless. Like, you couldn't pre-sale foreign territories because you didn't have any track record for stuff, right? But as the GDP of led by China started to grow, and you have studios that want their movies in China, the only way they can justify those budgets is if they have those theaters available to them. So that's how it kind of started to launch the market economics of these co-productions and co-financing opportunities, with varying degrees of success, obviously. But then along the way, also, you have the proliferation, the in terms of just the aesthetic and the commercial value, the proliferation of K-pop and K-dramas throughout the West. And now it's not just a niche market that you would go to, like, your niche DVD store to try to get things. Now it's firmly ensconced in the mainstream consciousness, and I to be honest with you, the whole Asian hate dynamic, I think, is also just evidence of that. Like, there's always been racism, there's always been crimes committed, but I just don't think that we had as visible a platform for it. So obviously now the community is able to mobilize in ways that we weren't able to in the past, and this is further evidence of the fact that this consciousness is definitely making inroads. And I never thought that I would see it in my life and in my career, but I'm over the moon about it, obviously. So as long as the market economics of it are there, I think that we'll have material there, because they always stretch the fabric of the story over the financial model, right? And so that's exactly what happens here. And so that provides the milieu within which a lot of content creators can kind of come in and do what they do, because that's what people do, right? Content creators generally create in their own likeness, right? So when you have people now that have the opportunity to do that, I think it's wonderful. Like I've said before, I think that the way you drive the engine of change and social consciousness is through creative actions, more so than affirmative actions, right? So, and working in entertainment obviously is a wonderful opportunity, because I think as a filmmaker or anybody that's involved in entertainment, like it's important to have a project that it's good to have a project that's inspiring, that's educational, that's provocative, all these things. But really, I think at the heart of it all, you need to be entertaining. Once you create a vehicle that's entertaining, you have their attention, and then therefore you can kind of, and so when people start seeing, are entertained, and particularly by people that look like us. It kind of opens the door to, more of those opportunities. So I'm hopeful.
No, that's definitely a great answer. And I wanted to know, like, personally for you with, Parasite winning Best Picture, I couldn't even like believe that. And like Chloe Zhao winning the Oscars and Shang-Chi, what was it for you that resonated the most, like personally? That was like, oh, like the Asian Americans in entertainment have made it. But what was it of those films that resonated with you most personally?
But that's a big question. It kind of harkens back to my previous statement about how market economics will always kind of help drive the opportunities and the challenges that lay before us. But there are a lot of talented people in Asia and Asian America that hadn't previously had the platform to kind of share their perspectives. And now that the market economics have provided an opportunity for that, we're seeing that happen. I'm thrilled to death to see that, and I hope that I get to work with some of these people, because I've waited my whole career for this. I never thought that I would see it. And when I left Chicago PD in 2014, I remember I went to lunch with the executive vice president. He was like, Archie, we want to keep you in the NBC family. Is there anything that we could do? Do you want to meet some of the writers? Maybe we could start developing. And I was like, I've been hearing that. He was like, things are going to change and we're going to have more, representation. And I was like, I've been hearing this stuff for a long time and I can't wait any longer. I've already done 3 movies in China. I don't even speak Chinese, but I'm getting opportunities just based on the fact that I fit, kind of the flavor that they're looking for with this particular character. Then I'm over in China and I'm reading about like how, Fresh Off the Boat got greenlit, Crazy Rich Asians got greenlit, Dr. Ken Jeong, he got his own show and all these. I was like, oh, he was right. Things were changing, but that's how progress is made, right? It's incremental, and to the point that it's probably, indetectable until all of a sudden you hit this watershed moment, this inflection point. And then all of a sudden, you could say that with Bitcoin, you have, early adopters that are believers in it. And then all of a sudden you have enough mass adoption that becomes part of the mainstream consciousness. And that's where we are now. And that's where we're heading now. So good story is good story. That has got to be the fundamentals of any project. Otherwise, and I don't think that, the content creators are going to squander it because they very well realize that at the heart of it all, we still need to provide compelling entertainment, as I mentioned earlier, regardless of what you look like.
So, well, last 2 questions for you. I wanted to know, when you were starting out, who did you look up to that was Asian American that made you want to pursue acting?
First time I wasn't an actor yet, but I remember watching Jason Scott Lee in Dragon. And I was just like, this guy is beautiful. He's a hero. And it was as obviously he was playing, Bruce Lee. But I was just, this guy he's, incredible. And I saw, the only 2 characters that I can remember seeing back in the day that were, that I could kind of identify with, because I didn't grow up speaking Chinese. So I'm talking about Asian American content, was Russell Wong in Joy Luck Club and Jason Scott Lee in Dragon. But basically, I mean, if I have to point to these things, it just shows you what a scarcity there was of opportunity. When I got offered Power Rangers in 1998, I was like, I don't want to do this. I kind of thought it was like a silly kid show. I didn't realize on another note, how profoundly impactful it's been to be part of people's childhoods. And I'm really deeply grateful for that. But as far as my own personal journey, I didn't grow up watching people that look like me so much. But now, hopefully, future generations will be able to see the Shang-Chis of today and so forth, being able to think, hey, I can be superhero. I don't have to have blonde hair and blue eyes in order to, not discounting that either, but the world's a bigger place, So.
Oh, I was a Power Rangers fan, Yellow Ranger.
Ah,
So,
hey, which
um,
color? You're wearing blue, by the way. I'm just saying.
I know, right?
They
But
say red, I know. But listen, we're still all good buddies. I mean, I was just texting with Danny, the Red Ranger, yesterday, and the great, red. When we call each other, we text each other, we still call each other by our colors, which I think is so funny. All these years later, like, green, what are you doing? Yellow, how are you?
is there like a dream director, writer, creator that you want to work with?
I would say there's probably two directors that I would just love to work with. One is Ang Lee, obviously. He's just a master at. I mean, you think about it. I mean, that guy did Sense and Sensibility. English is not his native language. I mean, and he did Brokeback Mountain. He did he's just done so many different things beyond the classics that he's done in Chinese, obviously. But it's mind blowing. And then also the other one that I really love, his visual language, probably as much as anybody can think of, is Danny Boyle. Train Spotting, Slumdog Millionaire, and stuff like that. He is. I mean, I wouldn't even know what to do with myself if I met him. I mean, that'd be a thrill. So yeah, those two guys are, yeah. I don't really get starstruck, but I do get talent struck. Yeah. And those guys, I don't think I'd be able to talk if I met them. So
what about actors though, or actresses, just for on-screen dynamics?
If I'm dreaming, I mean, Joaquin Phoenix is, or Johnny Depp or something, these people are just such, literally chameleons. And like, it's a whole, I mean, they're a master class in acting, and they're a walking master class, so I would love to just be around that to see, to see them work, I suppose, but, the actor's journey is a journey, right? I never thought that I would have the things that are already in my rear view window be there, but it's been, you never know, right? You can never say never. You never know what's going to happen. And as we just mentioned earlier in the conversation, like, the market economics are providing opportunities I never dreamed of before. So we'll see what happens, yeah, hopefully I'll meet my heroes one day.
For sure. Well, thank you for answering those Asian American questions. I mean, do you want to like plug Christmas at the Ranch at the end, and like where to watch?
Christmas at the Ranch is a different thing. Altogether. Like, just because I just delighted that. And I mean, this probably shouldn't be the reason alone that you choose something, but they got my attention when Kristen, the writer director, when they offered me the role, I was like, I asked my manager, I'm like, do they know what I look like? Because he's a cow on a ranch. He's a cow. And so they were like, yeah. So when I got there, I asked her, did you grow up with like an Asian best friend or something? Is this some sort of homage to, she's like, no. Have you ever met an Asian cowboy? She goes, no. And I go, yet you made your lead male character an Asian cowboy. I just love that you're just, because it's a family movie. It's LGBT, but it's really not about like, racial or gender identity as much as it's just a story about like, coming home for the holidays, which we all kind of get, the inherent challenges that come with that, with your family. You love them for better or for worse. And, it's really just a story about, love and inclusion and redemption. It's really what Christmas should be. Right. So I came back, had been living in Asia for much of the last year during the height of COVID. And then when she offered me the film, I went back there, and like, I was in Nashville, and I'm putting on my getup, my big cowboy hat. And so I couldn't believe what I was looking at, but it was almost like one day I was in my Power Rangers outfit. I was in my dressing room, and I'm pulling on, I came to LA not to be an actor, but to go to law school. But I guess I got distracted somewhere along my way. And so I'm in my dressing room. I remember one day in my dressing room looking at myself, pulling on my blue spandex tights. And I'm like, well, I guess in life, sometimes, you're offered this left turn or a right turn. And here I am chasing rubber monsters around the, around the set. And it, as absurd as that sounds, it turned out to be one of the most gratifying experiences of my life. just in the people I met along the way and the things that we got to do, in the philanthropic endeavors that we were, I wouldn't have been able to have that kind of platform before, but I loved it. And it, like I said, I'm amazed that it continues to endure in a whole different kind of way with this generation. So you never know, like in my life, in this journey, you have to take chances and you have to do things that you don't really know.
Well, thank you so much, Archie, for taking the time. It's been
my
an
pleasure.
Honor speaking with a living legend, a Power Ranger.
Too generous of you. Have you been drinking this morning?
No,
I appreciate it. I'm just kidding.
Just water.
Aha. Yeah, like I'm
right.
And
happy holidays.
Yeah, happy holidays. Yeah, definitely.